we are going to have a little conversation on the topic of course, gender equality, on why it is important to have male allies, and this is key. And I want to thank all the men who are here tonight. Yes, I think that's really important. We have to cheer you on for understanding the value of female leadership and the complementarity of talents. We want to work together. I'll start with you, Sarah. My first question is about your role. Are you the first woman in the role that you're currently occupying?
So I am the first female CEO of Marsh Canada, as well as the as well as the first CEO of Marsh McLennan in Canada, which is a new role. For confusion, we have 4 businesses under Marsh McLennan: Marsh, Mercer, and Teresa Palandra, who's the president of Mercer Canada, is here this evening receiving an award as well. And then we've also got Oliver Wyman and Guy Carpenter, so I'll just lay that out. But interestingly enough, I was one of the first, I was the first female CEO of one of the top 4 countries. But we actually had a global leader of Mercer, globally, Martine Ferland, who is actually a Canadian as well. And so thrilled that we're following in her footsteps.
And who's retiring, I believe.
Who has just retired.
Has just retired, an amazing woman.
Yes.
So Sarah, tell me about the experience getting there. Were there any obstacles that you think might have been there because you were a woman? Was there anything additional?
So I will say, first of all, I was very lucky that I was in the right place at the right time when I started my career. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to law school or do an MBA, and so I thought I better get some business experience. And I ended up actually as a directors and officers liability insurance underwriter, so assuming the risk of boards of directors. And it was right at the time that Canadian governance was really coming to prominence. And so I was lucky because I was a specialist in this area. So I think I was a little bit immune, if you would, from some of those issues. But when I realized, I reached a point where all of a sudden there was a ceiling. And I hadn't seen it before. And I realized I don't like that ceiling. And I thought, I have to do one of 2 things. The leadership who were in place at the time had said they weren't going, they'd made it quite clear they weren't going anywhere. And I thought, okay, if I want to stay with the organization, then I probably have to leave. Or if I want to stay where I am, I probably have to leave the organization or transfer. And so I went to New York. But what it taught me was you're actually in control of your career. You're in control of your circumstances as long as you're willing to look at things a little bit differently.
Love it. So you're speaking about the glass ceilings, how you were still able to overcome that barrier. I can tell that you definitely did not bother with the sticky floors, because that's a reality. That's when the women actually feel that they're not in control and they're inactive. They're not doing what they have to do, because we also have our own responsibilities, right? We cannot always blame it on the corporate culture, always blame it on the men who are taking our seats. There's also the fact that we have a role to play, an active role. So, Patrick, talking about male champions, male allies, tell us what made you a male ally. Why is it important for you, gender equality?
So I need to admit it started quite early, because I grew up with 3 sisters older than me. So gender parity came out quite soon. And I have 2 daughters as well. So I can tell you that at home and in my personal life, I had no choice as well.
You're the token man.
But still, when I basically had, like, it's going to be my 20th year, like right now at Randstad. And before that, I was in the hospitality industry. And I've been surrounded by so many exceptional women that helped me out grow in my career, but also develop myself. and invest in me to become the leader that I am today. So I feel that it's really important for me to give back. And when I took over my position, for sure, I'm a white male, but I have a big mandate that I gave myself. I said, I need to do the same as those women that have been investing in me. So at Randstad, it's really important I give myself this clear mandate in investing in our amazing women that we have.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, I think that that deserves a round of applause. Absolutely. Sarah, were there male champions along the way that made it easier for you?
Yeah, there were. You know, it's kind of interesting. First of all, I look at both role models as well as actual mentors or sponsors. It was actually, I ended up, there weren't a lot of female senior executive role models within the organization, but I was lucky enough to work with a number of clients who had senior females in executive roles. And so they became my role models. And what I didn't realize was how they actually became not only mentors and sponsors as well. And so I had clients who actually ended up being some of my mentors, and who challenged me to say, well, why wouldn't you go for that role? And so the male allies have played a significant role in my career.
And I appreciate you for accepting to be the co-chair tonight and being a role model yourself. So do you have mentees? How do you give back?
Yeah, great question. It's something that I take very seriously and very personally as well. You know, it's something that when I first came into my role, one of the first things that I wanted to do was make sure that we had more diversity on our executive committee. We had a long way to go on it, and you know, I'm proud to say today that we do have gender parity and diversity on that executive committee. What's really important, though, and I realized it right off the bat, was that pipeline was not full. And so it became really something that I focused on, was making sure that pipeline, right from the very early stages of careers, was being built, and that we were mentoring. I take it very personally as a key part of my role, but I also make sure that my leadership do as well, and the leaders of leaders as well. So it has to be the whole way through that pipeline, identifying talent right when they come out of school.
Amazing, exactly, because we need to start from entry level if we want to make sure that these women make it to the top. And I think having a female model like you at the top sort of gives ambition to the younger women who join your organization, for sure. Patrick, Randstad has always been very vocal on questions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're very lucky to have Namita, who heads DEI for Randstad, emceeing the gala tonight. So you've been Parity certified. Both your organizations have had Parity certification for many years. Can you tell us what that has brought to your organization?
So good things, like we implemented a little bit the same as you, Sarah. So we implemented like new mentorship programs specifically for women. Now where we're going with this is that we're looking at the intersectionality as well, which is very important, because honestly for us at Randstad, like on the gender parity, we reach out like our targets that we gave ourselves a couple of years ago, which is good, but on the intersectionality piece, we see that we still have gaps. So that's the reason why we implemented this program specifically for those women, to make sure that we identify the good potential as well, and that we have our senior leadership involved into this as well. It's really important that where it starts from us. Right? It's not an HR project. It's not an HR initiative. It really starts by the executive team, and that's the reason why every single member, like, it's really important, the involvement that we have in developing our people overall.
Yeah, I think the tone at the top is crucial. And from what I'm hearing, Patrick, I think you're making it very clear to your teams across the country how you have expectations, that your leaders are going to make sure that they're developing people on their team, women and diverse women, because you know, the intersectionality component to me is especially important, especially, you know, being born abroad, and the fact that some women have added obstacles. I think most people are now familiar with the notion of intersectionality, which is women who also identify as other underrepresented groups. That's an added obstacle.
Yeah.
Sarah, what have you seen at Marsh since you've started the Parity Certification?
Yeah, so first of all, you know, it's something that Mercer actually started before Marsh did, and so once I learned about it, I thought this is absolutely something that we need to be implementing and adopting within Marsh as well. And what I love about the certification process, it's rigorous. You can't buy your way in. There's no sponsorship dollars associated with that particular certification process, and it's incredibly rigorous, and it keeps us honest. So we are looking at every single year, making sure that we're actually maintaining our actual level or increasing, and I'm pleased to say that we've increased. We're not quite at the platinum level or at the gold, but we're trying to get to that platinum level, and we're determined to do it. But I think it's the rigor around it and keeping our eye on the ball and realizing that it is making us be better. And I think it's also very much a statement to our colleagues that we are committed to doing this and that this is not a one and done. The journey, it's a long journey, and I applaud you, Carolyn, for changing the process as well and adapting to changing legislation, changing trends as well, because I think you know, that's the way we're going to actually achieve true parity.
Right, thank you very much, Sarah. And talking about tone at the top, I remember meeting you, I think it was in 2018 or 2017, I can't remember. We were on a panel together, and I told you about the work that we were doing, and you said, we're doing this. And that happened right after that. Yeah. So, as you said, we are continuously improving also and ensuring the questionnaire reflects new realities. We're talking more and more about menopause, about menstrual health, about women's health in general, and incorporating this in our questionnaire. This is brand new. This is this year, so we're very excited. Patrick, tell us what Randstad has specifically done in that space.
Yeah, we had a discussion earlier about this, and I'm proud to say that it's good to give benefits to all employees, but how much support that we give them through their life. And we have now, like, through the intranet, we have a guide, like, to help out and resources available to go through menopause, as an example, for women. So, which is very important, because we know that how hard it could be sometimes. So we just have, like, different programs in place to help out, like, all our employees to make sure that through their career, through their journey with us, that they feel supported and they can get some help with this. Yeah.
Sarah, anything specific that maybe Marsh has started doing around these questions?
So two things. With our benefits committee, we actually took a diversity lens to all of the benefits, and so we had an analysis done for us. It's very helpful that Mercer is part of the family and that they actually specialize in doing that. So we took a full diversity lens to make sure that there was no party who was being left behind. The other thing that, of course, given how critical menopause is, we've done a lot of education on it as well, and our UK colleagues had actually produced a menopause playbook. And so we're in the midst of actually bringing that now into Canada and launching that as well. It's all about the education. It's the awareness. It's making sure that we understand, so that we can, you know, make sure that we can help our colleagues through this, help each other.
Brilliant. Sarah, how do you feel when somebody says we looked for a woman but we couldn't find one?
Can I show you where the unbiased training, unconscious bias training is? Yeah, no. You know, I think it's, my immediate response would actually be you didn't look hard enough, and you probably didn't cast your web wide enough as well. If it's one thing that we've learned on our journey of diversity and attracting and retaining our colleagues, it's looking at much broader areas of hiring colleagues into the organization. And that includes the whole way through the organization as well. And so, you know, internally we're doing that. And so we've partnered with, for example, one of the insurance companies, Zurich, on a Pathways program with inner city kids to bring them, attract them into the industry. So that's at the entry level. And then we also recognize the fact that we can't do this on our own. And so my passion is governance, and so not only are we actively supporting women in governance, but we are also creating opportunities for our colleagues and thought leadership opportunities as well to develop them with supporting other organizations such as Women Get on Board, Board Diversity Network as well, which is really critical and really changing the face of boards across Canada.
Great, yeah. So talking about unconscious bias, Patrick, how do you react? I'm sure you see it. I mean, we are all victims, but we're also perpetrators of unconscious bias, right? Women and men.
Yeah.
So how do you react when you see that?
First, I would say it's quite simple, but it's to call them out first. Yeah. It's unacceptable. We deal at Randstad as well. We deal with over 5,500 companies as well. So not only internally, but externally we hear that as well. And we see many companies where I think all pretty much large enterprise here tonight. But just think about the population of the companies that we have right now. There's a lot of small and medium businesses across the country, and they're not fully equipped to face that as well. And how many times that we have those comments, like from clients, that we need to educate, that we need to coach, and that's the piece that we try to do on both sides as well. So how often that I've been sitting down with different clients and they didn't have the right perspective where we had a real discussion. And I'm glad to see that. For us, we've decided with Namita for sure, with Jessica, we have Floss as well that is helping out for North America as well from our EDI&A team. So we work not only internally for ourselves, but also we give those services to our client to make sure that we help them out to go through those biases and make sure that we improve the things at the end. Yeah.
So on your teams, I'm guessing nobody's ever going to send an all-male slate of candidates. Yeah. There's always going to be an equal number of men and women for your clients to choose from.
Yeah.
Because that's, I think, one of the biggest obstacles is when clients are not putting an emphasis on this and they're accepting, okay, these are your 3 finalists, they're men. Well, then obviously, who's going to get the job?
Yeah.
It's going to be a man.
Yeah.
So, and I want to make it very clear that it's not about female dominance, because if you're in an industry where it's all women, I actually encourage you to look for men, because we're really looking for different perspectives that are going to enrich the conversation. So just the other gender, the less dominating gender. And if we have more men coming into female-dominated industries, I am convinced that the salaries are going to go up real quick. We're in a period of time where we're seeing a lot of progress. But I think we can all agree that we're also seeing some very backwards things happening. And there's elections coming on both sides of the borders. And there's declaration. I don't know if you heard the, I'm trying to remember his name. I have it here. The Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker. I'm just trying to forget his name. Yeah. I don't know if you heard that he recommended during a graduation address, he was recommending to the women to find a husband and stay at home rather than pursue a career. These are women who just graduated, right? So I think they've got, I think you should stick to kicking field goals instead of kicking women's career aspirations. Yeah. But I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this sort of trend. He's a young man, and his mother is a very senior researcher, physicist. I mean, she's a brilliant woman who's got a big career. What happened?
Hey. No, it's incredible. I
mean, it's The Handmaid's Tale all over again.
Yeah. And who is he or who are we to decide what women want at the end? Like that was a little bit disappointing to still see that in 2024.
Yeah, and how did nobody interrupt him or boo him? This is also very concerning to me.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, no, I agree. Unfortunately, he's getting a lot of airtime too, a lot of playtime, right? So, you know, I think it's just such a great reminder that unfortunately people have a platform sometimes, and they use it in a way that isn't necessarily the most positive either. And so, you know, I think it's, yet again, if we hate having to put forward the business case as to why diversity of thought is so critical, but it's incumbent upon those of us who truly believe in it to make sure that we're having those conversations at all levels.
Well, I want to thank you both, Sarah Robson, Patrick Poulin, for being such generous, well, not host, I'm the host, but such generous guests tonight. It was amazing to hear more about what motivates you to do all this work on DEI within your teams, within your organizations, and your own career path. Thank you so much.